Hello, Internet. Best start of a video ever. Hello, Internets. I'm Bob McScruffins, and I will be your guide in today's madness tutorial. Today we're going to be talking about baking data into components on page load. So we've been working in a .NET MVC solution here recently, and something that we found to be useful is actually baking the data directly into the component when the page loads, rather than waiting and then going out to the server, doing AJAX request. We actually feed the data in directly in the HTML as string, and then go about when the component loads, turning that into the data that we need. So it's a little bit different. Maybe you're already doing this, but if you're not, this could be really helpful if you're kind of stuck in the confines of another MVC and you want to start to actually migrate into components, which we super recommend. So that being said, let's just jump right into it after my hashtag non-spawn coffee drink. Okay, so I've already scaled up a project called Baking with Stencil, and I used our awesome Enjin command line tool, that you should totally check out on NPM. And it's links, description, do it. And basically what we're going to do is we want to pass in a prop into our the oven component that I've created. So if we look on our app homepage, we've got the oven component here, and it is actually ready to go, working in the page. And so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to run npm start so we can see it in operation. So basically we've got the oven component on the home page, and the oven component is just been scaled up with the Enjin CLI tool, and it just says your new the oven component. So this is probably the closest that I will get to baking. Okay, so now while that's building, what we're going to be doing again is we're just going to take a prop called ingredients, and we're going to feed in a string that is a JSON representation of the data, and then we're going to take that string and then we're going to parse it as the data, and then we're going to actually use that inside of the component. So another helpful thing that we've kind of done is we kind of used a wrapper that we wrap around multiple components to do this method. And that way, if we ever decide to use Stencil full on or something like Ionic or Angular, we can then throw away the wrapper and continue to use the components, because now all of our data will be objects to begin with. But now we should here momentarily be seeing the component load up. Please. So I hopefully in the future will be editing these videos, doing a little bit more production value, maybe adding an intro, some music and stuff like that. So if you want to donate to our Patreon, more winking, then that would be super helpful for us. It's patreon.com/madnesslabs, and you might even see your name in the video. Just implied wink. Okay, cool. So now we've got it running now. It says your new the oven component, and now what we're going to do again. Whoa! Don't do that. Now what we're going to do is inside of our component, we're going to use a prop called ingredients, and let's go ahead and go over to our home page, which I will open up over here. And in our home page, let's just feed in some ingredients. So ingredients, thank you, autocomplete. So traditionally, right, you would pass in your ingredients like maybe milk, eggs, butter. So traditionally you do something like that, and Stencil's really wired up to kind of work in that way. But what we needed again was we didn't want to have to make a trip out to the server to get that data. We're not graced with the awesomeness of being able to actually have an object to work with. So what we did in the projects that we're working on is we actually baked the data directly into the HTML when it gets served back from the server. So instead of doing it this way, we instead just fed in a string like so. And what this is going to do, This is going to allow us to, again, bake the data directly into the page. And then we can then, over in our component, do a little magic to make sure that that's parsed as an object or as JSON. So let's go ahead and save that. And over here, we need to do this when the component is about to load. So a good method for that is component will load. So if you don't know about these guys, or if you've never worked in React or Stencil, these are events that get automatically fired. And this particular one fires when the component is about to load. So it's before the render has occurred, and it's going to actually be the place where we're going to actually latch on, grab this list of ingredients, and then parse it as the stuff we're going to put on the page. So what we're also going to need, though, is let's create a state. Let's create a state variable that we're going to then save all of this up. So let's say state. So we're going to say state ingredient list, and then any. Or we could actually do a little bit better with our typings, but to keep this brief, I'm just going to roll with it. So okay, so now what we're going to want to do is we want to differentiate whether we're using ingredients or ingredients as an object or ingredients as an actual string, a JSON string. So what we're going to do is we're going to say this dot ingredient list equals type of this dot ingredients, ingredients equals string. Then we're going to JSON dot parse this dot ingredients, or we're just going to use this dot ingredients. So I'm going to go ahead and close this guy down, or at least put him on the same side here, just so we can see the whole thing. So now what you're going to see is we have ingredient list is going to equal, if it's a string, if the list of it, the prop for ingredients is a string, we're going to parse that string as JSON and then save that to ingredient list, or it's going to be just the object of ingredients. That way we have the freedom to pass in either a string or the object, and either one will just work. So let's go ahead and list out our ingredients here. So maybe we want an A tag for every one of these guys. So much like I did in the video about dynamic components, I'm going to do this dot ingredient list. I'm going to do a ternary to check to see if these guys exist, and if they do exist, I'm going to say this dot ingredient list dot map. And then inside of here, each one is going to be an ingredient. And then the only thing I need to remember is to do my falsy statement and my closing. Okay, cool. So then I'm going to take this guy, and little trick for you, if you highlight in VS Code and hold Alt and press up and down, you can kind of move that line. You can move that line up and down throughout your code, which is super helpful. Keyboard shortcuts for the win. Okay, so each ingredient in the list, we want to just echo out that ingredient. Can you tell I program in PHP? Okay, so there we go. So we should have an A tag now for each list item inside of our string of ingredients. So if we did everything right, we should now be able to jump in here and see, drum roll please. Oh no! Debugging on your YouTube video. Load this ingredient. Type of ingredient list equals string. Parse this ingredients. So let's go back over to our home page, make sure that I pass this in right. What's probably happening here is that this is not technically valid JSON because I'm using single quotes and not double quotes. All right, let's see if that did it. Ah, it was indeed. Okay, so again, there's a good call out. Thank God I'm an idiot. So we can actually see that it has to be valid JSON if it's going to be parsed. But again, let's just test out to make sure. Stop doing that. Let's just test out to make sure that it works just as well when we use an object. So now I'm going to replace that, and just so that we can see a real difference, let's say raw milk, egg, butter, flour. We're cooking now, pun intended. And now you'll see that once this reloads, now we have flour. And I could probably make a way better spacing between those words and everything, so it doesn't say milk, egg, butter, flour. But there's the general example. So again, really simple. We're just basically allowing ourselves the freedom, the ability to bake the actual data into the actual page. That way we don't have to worry about going and doing AJAX request and going and getting that stuff. And this is just a really clean, simple way that we found to do it. And again, usually we're kind of wrapping this around the actual components that accept objects. And that way we can throw these things away whenever we're not doing that practice anymore. Whenever we have a little bit, whenever we're switching over to completely using maybe a native application with all the views already baked into the actual application, and the data is fully gotten from AJAX. But this is a good step that you can use to transition from like a server-side MVC to an actual client-side MVC. So hopefully this was helpful. If it was, please head on over to our Patreon, links description, and feel free to donate. And as always, I've been Bobby, I hope, and we'll see you guys next time. Can you find the button, stop recording?